Everyone thinks the electric car is the great breakthrough of our time.
But the truth is, it already won this race once, over 100 years ago. And then it was erased from history.
Things you've never seen, now revealed.
This is Cars in Detail. At the end of the 19th century, the streets of the great cities were still full of horses. And three different technologies were fighting to become the future of transport: steam, gasoline, and electricity. Today, we all think we know how that story ended. Gasoline won for 100 years. Except, that's not how it began. Because at the start of that race, the one out in front wasn't gasoline, it was electric. And the story of how the electric car won, then was quietly erased from history for almost a century, is one of the strangest tales the automobile ever hid. It even includes the day electricity was, for a moment, the fastest thing on wheels.
Let me hit you with a number. Around the year 1900, on the roads of the United States, about 40% of cars ran on steam, 38% ran on electricity, and only 22% ran on gasoline. Read that again. The electric car outnumbered the gasoline car almost 2-to-1. The gasoline engine, the one we assume always ruled the road, was actually dead last. Steam, electric, and gasoline all shared the street. And in city after city, electric was the one people wanted. Because back then, the electric car was simply far better to live with.
And it's easy to see why. The electric car of that era was quiet, while the gasoline car was loud and shook all over. It was clean, no smoke, no smell. And most importantly, it was easy to start. You just got in and drove. To start a gasoline car, you had to turn a crank at the front by hand, with real force. It was hard, exhausting, and even dangerous. The crank could kick back and break your arm. And the steam car? It could take nearly an hour just to heat its boiler before you could leave. Next to them, the electric felt like magic. Turn a key and go.
So in the cities, electric was king. In London, electric taxis, known as buses, were already running through the streets in 1897. New York had entire fleets of electric cabs. And here's a detail almost no one knows. The very first car ever designed by Ferdinand Porsche, the name behind one of the most desired brands on earth, was an electric car called the P1 back in 1898. And he went further. In 1900, he built the Loaner Porsche, one of the first hybrid cars in history, with electric motors mounted right inside the wheels. A concept so far ahead of its time that it only became popular again a full century later. The electric car wasn't a curiosity, it was the cutting edge.
And if you're picturing these electric cars as slow little golf carts, get ready. Because at the end of the 19th century, the land speed record was dominated by electricity. In 1899, a Belgian driver named Camille Jamais built a torpedo-shaped electric car made of a light aluminum alloy and named it La Jamais Contente, the Never Satisfied. With it, Jamais became the first human being in history to break the 100 kilometers per hour barrier in a land vehicle. He hit 105.88 kilometers per hour in 1899, and the fastest car on the planet at that moment ran on batteries. That very car still exists today in a museum in France.
And it wasn't only cars. Around the same time, electric two-wheeled vehicles, the ancestors of the electric motorcycle and bicycle, were beginning to appear too, with the first electric bicycle patents filed back in the 1890s. Electricity truly looked like the future of transport in every shape and form. Everything pointed to a world rolling forward, silent and clean, on battery power. Cities were being wired, homes were getting electricity, and the electric vehicle seemed like the natural king of that new world. And then three blows, one after another, changed the course of history and cast the electric car into darkness for almost 100 years.
And here's the cruelest irony of this whole story, one we'll tell in full in another episode. One of those 3 blows came from a single man, the very same man who, years later, would regret it and try to bring the electric car back from the dead. But first, the 3 blows.
The first blow came in 1908 with the Ford Model T. Henry Ford did something revolutionary. He built the car on an assembly line in mass production, and that crushed the price. Suddenly, a gasoline car cost a fraction of what an electric one did, since electric stayed expensive because of their heavy batteries. The battle, which had been about which car was better, turned into a battle about which car was cheaper. And that's when the electric began to lose badly.
The second blow was technical and cruel because it struck the electric car's single greatest advantage. In 1912, the electric starter was invented for gasoline cars. Suddenly, you no longer had to turn that dangerous crank. You just pressed a button and the gasoline engine started on its own. The easy start, which had been the electric car's great trump card, was no longer its alone. The gasoline car had copied the one thing it was losing at.
And the third blow was oil. Cheap, abundant oil was discovered, gasoline became dirt cheap, and the world began building long roads connecting distant cities. And here was the electric car's Achilles heel. The batteries of that era held little charge, between 50 and 130 kilometers, and then needed hours to recharge. Perfect for the city, hopeless for crossing the country. The gasoline car, refueled in minutes, won the long distances. And blow by blow, by the 1930s, the electric car had all but vanished from the world.
But there's a twist almost no one knows, and it's a beautiful one. Henry Ford himself, the man whose Model T had pushed the electric car toward the grave, tried to bring it back. In 1914, Ford announced he would build an affordable, low-cost electric car, and he called on none other than his close personal friend, the genius Thomas Edison, who was developing a new kind of battery. The two of them dreamed of an electric car for the masses. But the battery was still too heavy and too expensive, and the world had already run into the arms of gasoline. The project never took off. The man who buried the electric car was also one of the men who tried to resurrect it. And that full story is for the next episode.
Now stop for a second and think about what all of this means for you today. Because we grew up being told the electric car is the future, a new revolutionary technology. But it isn't new. It's the return of an idea that had already won once and was defeated not for being worse, but because of price, cheap oil, and the battery limits of its time. And what changed to bring it back? Exactly those 3 things. Batteries got far better, worry about oil's pollution grew, and the technology got cheaper. The same 3 factors that killed it, reversed, are what brought it back. History didn't forgive gasoline. It just took 100 years to send the bill.
The real lesson here isn't really about cars. It's about how we tell the story of progress. We learned the history of the automobile only halfway, as if gasoline had won simply for being naturally better. But that's not what happened. It was a close race, full of twists, where the loser of 100 years ago is the favorite of today. History is almost never a straight line. It moves in circles. And sometimes the idea that seems the most modern is, in truth, the oldest one of all.
So the next time you see an electric car glide silently down the street and someone calls it the future, you'll know the whole truth. That isn't the future arriving for the first time. It's the past coming back to finish a race that began over 100 years ago, when a torpedo-shaped electric car crossed the 100-per-hour line, and the world for a moment believed electricity would win. It just needed a century for its rematch. And that's why we look at cars and the world in detail.
Now tell me down in the comments, did you know the electric car came before gasoline? And which old car marked your life, or your family's? Write it down. I read them all. If this story surprised you, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with that one friend who loves cars. It's what helps this channel grow. And don't miss the next episode, the full story of Henry Ford, the man who changed forever how cars are built and who almost brought the electric car back to life. See you there, here on Cars in Detail.